killer is revealed in Detective Comics issue 50. Jim and Bullock go to the statue of the Civil War soldiers used in the recent killings. Jim says that somehow all these killings are about heroes, ones that existed in history. Bullock says that the case has turned up nothing, since the only evidence left was some of the blood from the killer, but it matched 40% of the city. Thinking the crime's over, Jim says the killer needs another female victim, seeing as that he rescued the original Joan of Arc one. In the graveyard, the killer melts down some of the bones he collected, drinking the leftovers. Dressing in a dog mask, he hunts down a wild dog that lives in the graveyard. At Gleason's pub, Jim and Bullock beat some information out of a thug. They are interrupted by an alert at the Gotham Zoo. At the zoo, they find the dog injured and in the polar bear enclosure. Not wanting their evidence to be eaten, Jim tranquilizes the bear. Rescuing the dog, he takes it up to the blimp for testing. Elsewhere in Gotham, a couple leave a restaurant after dinner. Getting into their car, they are kidnapped by the man in the dog-faced mask. Jim reaches the statue he was after, a sled dog statue. Realizing the killer's heroes just aren't human heroes, he tries to determine what significance this statue has to the others. Triangulating the locations of all the statues, they all point to one statue of St. George versus the Dragon. Arriving at the statue, Julia sends Jim the lab report from the dog, which has materials only found in an old 18th century cemetery. At the cemetery, the killer dressed the couple as Alice and Mr. Carroll from non-fiction books. He says that they are the last bones the book requires. Jim arrives, running through the cemetery to the chapel, arriving just in time to stop the killer from completing his ritual. Jim takes his fight with the killer outside, where he says the devil is waiting for him in the pit and that Jim is standing in the way of his glory. Jim manages to knock the mask off the man, sending him into a rage. With the killer blinded by his rage, Jim is able to stab him with a piece of metal. Throwing him into a lake, Jim jumps in after him, pulling him up to the surface and hauling him up for Bullock and the GCPD to arrest. So yeah, I guess like Jim found the killer, and I think next issue is sort of like the tie-up of this whole storyline, so it's going to be interesting just to see who this guy is, since we haven't really found out who it is yet. So I think is really cool, like, with this far into the story and we still don't really know who the killer is, and he probably isn't anyone specific, you know, he's probably just, you know, some random wacko who wants to, you know, do devil worshipping and stuff like that. But I thought this issue was pretty cool. I like all like these like sort of weird killings, how it's kind of like that movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, like just these weird devil ritual sort of things, serial killer sort of things, which is what Detective Comics should be, since it's, you know, a book about detectives. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm interested to see how this whole story ties up. I'm going to give this book a 9 out of 10.